Hello, this is lesson 5 for Wednesday and Thursday, and I can't believe it's already September 2nd and 3rd. So, we are going to be focusing today on thinking a little bit more about the three appeals. You should be reading chapter 1 of the language of composition. Those quizzes are going to happen on Monday and Tuesday, and I am going to ask virtual students to Zoom in for those quizzes so that I can have a recording of you taking the quiz. So just note that you will need to be available during your typical class time. And I'll also be using GoGuardian on your Chromebooks. So your bell ringer, it's not something that necessarily you guys can really do from home, but I hope that you finished that purpose analysis note-taking guide for the Mary Fisher speech. I'm just going to toggle over to that guide and let us kind of talk through it a little bit. So, sorry, I could have had this pulled up for you. Okay, so for the Mary Fisher speech, so she is a, youngish Republican mother who contracted HIV from a husband who had an extramarital affair. And she is speaking to a group of people who she is acknowledging probably have a certain degree of stigma or stereotypes about people who would have the HIV virus. So let's just kind of go over some of the thoughts that we had in class and that you might have written down on this handout. So this should have been one of the slides in your skills notebook. So it's really easy just to copy and paste this into your skills notebook. So when you're at the top, the first part is just asking you the primary argument. So what exactly is Mary Fisher trying to argue? And I think she's arguing that the AIDS virus, or HIV virus or AIDS, can impact anyone, and that everyone should have compassion for people with this virus, and that anybody can be impacted by it, and that it should no longer be stigmatized. I think her purpose is really trying to get people to see that AIDS can impact anyone, even the people that it seems like it would least impact. So there's that part where she says, I wasn't a drug user. I'm not a gay man. So I didn't think that this could impact me. She was married when she got it. She's a mother. She really does fit within all of these conventions that you would think are very, very traditional. She's not the other, that they'd been trying to people had been trying to say, oh, well, this only happens to certain kinds of people. And they would try to say, oh, well, it's people who are, doing things that are risky. And she's saying, look, I wasn't doing anything to bring this upon myself. And even the people that you're stigmatizing, we need to have compassion for and feel the connection that we have with them. On ideas, what does the reader want the audience to know or understand? I think she wants people to understand that AIDS can impact anyone. She has that whole part where she says all the HIV virus cares about is whether or not you're human. It's not targeting certain groups of people. I think that she wants people to know that it could impact them when she talks about how young people might get HIV AIDS. Her audience is probably largely parents. And so they might be thinking, this is scary. What if my teenage kids go out and get, the AIDS virus? Under feelings, describe the emotions the writer wants the audience to feel. I think she wants them to feel a little bit of fear of the virus, just to acknowledge, right, that this could become a big problem. I think she wants them to feel some sympathy and compassion, both for her and for other people who have this virus. I think that she, in particular, does a lot to build sympathy for herself, like at the end where she's talking about her very young children and how she might no longer, be alive. What are they going to remember about her? And then as far as actions, I do think, speaking to a political audience, that she wants there to be policy and research done to actually slow the spread of AIDS and to help treat the disease. And then on policy factor value, I think there are points when she is making each of these types of claims. I think she wants policy to happen. I think that she is making judgments. She's got some value claims, about basically she says that nobody who gets this is like bad, that's not why they're getting this disease. That's a value claim. But I would say probably the claim of fact is the most pertinent, because she's trying to say, look, This should not be a disease that is stigmatized. This is a disease that needs to be treated. And I think everything else kind of hinges on that. And then the bottom part was just for you to do a little bit of writing over the purpose. So today's lesson, we are going to be focused, moving on a little bit from purpose. We're going to be thinking about logos, ethos, and pathos, are 3 appeals. And so on this slide, you'll see it says, go here for the steps to set up Kami on your computer. I have posted a Kami assignment, and it's basically just an assignment to annotate an AP prompt. And so if you go to this page, it will show you exactly how to do this. And if you have any trouble with it, let me know. And hopefully I'll be able to help you. And so as in our annotations, I'm going to put instructions on that Kami assignment for exactly what you need to do as far as doing your annotations. But the prompt that we're going to be looking at is a JFK Steelworkers speech. And so let me just kind of walk you through the 3 appeals. And these are definitely things I want you to be thinking about as you look at that prompt, and then and to be annotating on the prompt as you go through it. So the first is logos. So logos is the appeal to reason. Sorry. That's it. Bell for the end of the day. Appeal to reason by offering clear, rational ideas. And here are a couple of questions that you can ask yourself. What claim or claims does the author make? What logical proofs and evidence are provided for the claim? Ethos definition is appeal to character. How does the speaker demonstrate that he has good sense, good character, and goodwill? Where does the speaker demonstrate consideration of multiple viewpoints and counter arguments? How does the speaker embody the values of the audience? You can see all my typos, guys. That's another typo. Is the speaker an authority on the subject? Does he or she cite authorities and show that he or she is educated? And why do the speaker's words matter on this topic? And then pathos is the appeal to emotion. How does the speaker or writer appeal to specific emotions? What examples elicit an emotional reaction from the reader or audience? And what's the result of this audience reaction? How does the author show consideration of the audience's specific interests? So these are just questions to kind of guide you in your annotations that you're going to do of this prompt. And then these are some tips for analyzing the 3 appeals. Avoid using the words ethos, logos, and pathos. I made this comment on some of your thesis statements that you wrote for last Friday. You don't want to say, John F. Kennedy uses ethos. I think that, basically the 3 appeals, those are all we have. Like, we're always using ethos, logos, and pathos as we speak and as we write. We're never not using those. And so to say that a writer is using one of them is almost like the same thing as saying a writer is using words, right? It's like, of course they are. So what you need to do is be more specific. And also just the sound of that sounds really kind of clunky in writing. So if you're saying JFK uses ethos, logos, and pathos, it's like, well, you could say that about absolutely any text in absolutely any time. So it doesn't demonstrate any critical thinking on your part. It doesn't demonstrate much writing ability because, again, it's just kind of like you're plugging in these 3 things that you know. So think about how the writer is using that particular appeal. For example, if you think that the writer is using pathos, ask yourself which emotion the writer is appealing to and why he or she is doing that. So if you're thinking about Mary Fisher in her speech, she's appealing to the audience's sympathy because she wants them to feel compassion for people with AIDS and to think that this is a problem worth addressing. It's a problem worth speaking about, and it's a problem worth helping other people about, right? So that's why she does it. So I'm going to look with you at the prompt that I'm going to have you annotate as part of your Kami assignment. So this is a prompt from the AP exam. So this is from 2012. And so I just want to walk through with you the prompt itself, and then you'll see the description for how to annotate it on the Kami assignment that's on Google Classroom. So this is from 2012. So on the AP exam, that we'll take in May, you'll have 3 prompts. And the second one is always going to be what we call a rhetorical analysis. And so question 2, this is probably the hardest question, or is the hardest question for students, because we usually score the lowest on this particular question. And it really is asking you to read closely, carefully, analytically, and it's asking you to demonstrate that in a written essay response. So it's typically going to be a passage that you've never seen before. They pick things that they know have not been anthologized. So it's really important that you have that skill of reading analytically, and that you have some strategies for thinking through a text. So on April 10th, 1962, as the United States was emerging from a recession, the nation's largest steel companies raised steel prices by 3.5%. President John F. Kennedy, who had repeatedly called for stable prices and wages as part of a program of national sacrifice during a period of economic distress, held a news conference on April 11, 1962, which he opened with the following commentary regarding the hike in steel prices. Read Kennedy's remarks carefully, then write an essay in which you analyze the rhetorical strategies Kennedy uses to achieve his purpose. Support your analysis with specific references to the text. So I would like for you to pay a lot of attention to the prompt, okay? So we've been focusing on rhetorical situation. I'm going to see if I can get this pen to work. We've been focusing on rhetorical situation in class. And so if you notice the kind of first little bit of this, okay, I'm not very good with the pen on here. The first little bit of this is basically giving you SOAPs. So it's giving you occasion, April 10th, 1962. It's giving you some pertinent details about the occasion. United States is emerging from a recession. So that means that the economy has been in a bad way and they're kind of just now getting out of it. It tells you the precipitating event or the exigence. Nation's largest steel companies raised steel prices by 3.5%. So that's the reason that President Kennedy feels the need to give this speech. We also have some information about our speaker, and you might want to activate some of your prior knowledge about President Kennedy. What do you know about him? He is calling for stable prices and wages as part of a program of national sacrifice during a period of economic distress. So he had kind of asked people, hey, let's keep wages stable, let's keep prices stable, because we're trying to get out of this recession. He's the president, so presidents are judged whether or not it's completely their responsibility or not. Presidents are very much judged for the state of the economy, and it's really something that can have a lot to do with whether or not they get elected again, and so, or how popular they are. And so obviously the economy matters to him. And so he holds a news conference on April 11th, 1962. So if you look at the date for when they wrote, the steel prices went up, and then when he gave the speech, it is just one day after. So obviously this was really important to him. So you have to say, well, what's he going to say? You might even do a little bit of trying to think to yourself, what is he going to say about this? What's his response going to be to these steel companies? And then the actual prompt, again, if I could use this little pen, then this would be better. But this sentence is the actual prompt. So everything else is giving you information that should inform your reading. Because just like what we've been talking about the last week and a half, the thing about rhetorical situation is that it should inform the way that the speaker is speaking and writing. It should inform the choices that they're making. And so if he's worried about the economy, if he's wanting these prices to go back down, those sorts of things, those things should inform the choices he makes. So it says, write an essay in which you analyze the rhetorical strategies Kennedy uses to achieve his purpose. So a couple of questions right now. Rhetorical strategies. You might be thinking, what is that? Basically, a rhetorical strategy can be any choice that John F. Kennedy is making deliberately to achieve his purpose. So that can really be almost anything. It could be the way he orders the speech. It could be the details that he uses. It could be repetition. It could be any number of things. And then the other question is, what is his purpose, right? That's something that you need to ask yourself, and definitely something you should be annotating for as you look at this passage. So thinking about what is his purpose. And so in the next video that I provide, I will kind of go through, I want you to go through first, but I will in our follow-up lessons go over with you some of the things that I think are important to the text, or maybe we might actually do that on Friday when we do our virtual meeting. We might talk about that a little bit so that we can talk through this particular prompt. So go to Google Classroom, do the assignment. Remember that chapter 1 is due next Monday, Tuesday, and that you're going to have to Zoom in during the quiz. So thanks. Let me know if you have any questions.